Here's a story time about when I broke off my 1.5-year engagement with my ex-fiance. We met on a movie set. He was playing my boyfriend, and within a week, we were already calling each other boyfriend and girlfriend. 2 months into the relationship, he convinced me to move to LA with him because we both wanted to pursue acting seriously, and he was an established model already. He had worked in Tokyo and Paris as a model. Of course, I was so in love. I said yes, and I left my family, which was really heartbreaking for them. I will totally always regret that decision because I left way too soon. I was so young. We struggled for money in LA, but I decided to get a serving job, so I was making more money than he was because he was working at a movie theater making $8 an hour. Because of this, I had to pay for a lot of the bills, and I even started helping him pay off his school loans. We also shared a banking account, which was terrible because I was putting in way more money than he was. I hated the apartment we lived in because I would wake up with roaches in my hair, so I decided to get a second serving job. When I asked him to get a second job as well, he said no because he was very happy at his job. Part 2 is up. Part 2. So I asked my fiance if he could get a second job to help me out with the bills, and he said no. I would tell my mom and sisters about the situation, and they would tell me that he should definitely be helping me out more, and I just would make up excuses for him, and I just thought it's okay, he can work at the movie theater, and I will work my 2 jobs. At this point, I was paying for most of the rent, most of the bills, and his student school loans. I owed $20,000, you guys, and I was paying for all of that. I even got a third job because I wanted to save up to move out of that crappy apartment. Finally, I got hired at the strip club as a cocktail waitress, and I was able to quit all of my other jobs. My ex-fiance was definitely happy with the amount of money I was making at the strip club. Of course, he felt absolutely no pressure to get a new job and help me out. I finally put my foot down and told him we were moving to a better apartment because I was not happy in the apartment we were in. I told him he had no right to say no because I was the one paying for everything. We found the perfect apartment and I loved it. It was absolutely beautiful and I felt so at home there. Then one night I was sexually assaulted at the strip club. Of course, I was really affected by it. At first he was supportive, but after a few days he basically told me to get over it.
Story time about how my Bumble date tried to choke me. This man was trying to kill me. Disclaimers, not my story time, was sent me on Instagram. After the first date, I decided to give it another chance. I ended up going on a date with a guy who I'm pretty sure was gay. The whole time we talked about his best friend and how great his best friend was, and he definitely sounded different. So by the end of the date, I asked him if he was bi. He acted all offended and said no. So obviously, I never went on a date with him again. When I got home that night, I decided to get back on the app and look for another date, as you do. And that's when I saw the guy, the one who choked me. Let me start by saying he was definitely the most attractive guy I had seen on the app until that point, which was one of the reasons why I really wanted to go on a date with this guy. Up until that point, all these other guys were like 5s. He was definitely a 10. We connected right away and he asked me out on a date that very weekend. And I said yes. I was so excited to actually meet this one specific guy because he was so attractive. I went all out and went to get waxed. I got my hair done. The weekend comes around and we end up meeting at a bar. We met, sparks flew, it was amazing. But after 3 drinks, he started getting very aggressive. He started grabbing my butt and everything else, if you know what I mean. Part 3 is up. Story time about how my Bumble date tried to choke me. I mean, he was literally trying to kill me. Disclaimer, is not my story time. I was sending me on Instagram. This was by far the worst date I've ever been on. Let me just say, I've had really bad dates. A little backstory. It all started last year when I left my broke-ass boyfriend. He would expect me to pay for everything because I was earning more money than him. So literally from one day to the next, I kicked him out of my apartment and I had all this newfound freedom. Now here's the thing. My friends all use dating apps and they never had such bad experiences, so I figured I should try it out too. To tell you that one of my best friends got married to one of her Bumble dates, I had high hopes. I downloaded Bumble the day after I broke up with my boyfriend. It was probably too soon, but honestly, I was just trying to have fun. My first date was okay. I wasn't necessarily attracted to this guy, but he was very successful and very funny. And when a guy can make me laugh, that goes a long way. So it kind of tricked me into believing that he was like, okay. So I decided to go on another date with him. Only the second time, all he kept talking about was Trump. So I got up from the table and I left him there. I mean, that's one thing about me. If I don't like you, I will straight up leave the table. I mean, I'm not wasting my precious time on some guy. Part 2 is story time about how my Bumble date ended up choking me. That's when he started getting sexually aggressive. Like really bad. He had only had his 3rd drink, which led me to believe that he probably had a couple of other drinks before he came to our date. He was trying to grab at everything. My butt and even my V. Of course, I pushed his hands away, and the only reason I didn't leave is because I'm like, okay, he's had a couple of drinks and he's probably just attracted to me, instead of telling him to stop and straight up leaving the bar. After 45 minutes, I told him that I was gonna go home. Then he says, I need a ride home. Can you give me one? And I said yes. Big mistake. We get into my car and he actually started gagging, like he was gonna be sick. I asked him to get out of my car and he said, no, I'm good. And that's when he just leans over and starts trying to kiss me. Instead of a normal kiss, he got up on the chair and on top of me. When I told him to stop, he grabbed my neck. 30 seconds later, I woke up. So yeah, he had choked me. He looked terrified. He got off of me and just left the car. I went straight to the police and they told me that they couldn't actually charge him because I didn't even know his real name. It turns out on the app, he had used a fake ID. I reported him to the app, but nothing happened. What should I do?
I am turning 33 in a few days, so this is my routine. One very important point I want to make is that aside from skincare, I do a lot of stuff to keep my skin looking as nice as possible, okay? So let's start with number 1. This is the Drunk Elephant Hydration Serum. I do not smoke, I do not drink, I don't really stay up late, I don't party. This is the Drunk Elephant Vitamin C Serum. I'm pretty healthy. I don't eat meat, I don't eat dairy, and I eat lots of fruits, lots of vegetables. One of the most important things I do for my skin is that I stay out of the sun. I never tan in the sun, and when I do, if I go to the beach, I make sure to put on lots of sunscreen, which brings me to my probably most important point, is using sunscreen. And this is the Drunk Elephant Eye Cream. You can buy all the expensive skincare you want on earth and put it on, but if you're not using sunscreen, none of that skincare is gonna matter. So all the efforts you go through, all the money you spend is not gonna matter if you're not using sunscreen. I started using sunscreen when I was 13 years old, and I am now 33, you guys. For sunscreen, I'm using Pacifica Vegan Collagen. Okay, that's enough. I love you guys. Bye.
Story time about how I was followed home twice and the one thing I will never leave my home without after that. In 2019, I was living by myself in LA. I was taking the train a lot because I didn't have a car and Uber was way too expensive. I've always been the type of person to be very aware of my surroundings, so I know when someone's trying to trail me. I got off the train one time and this man was getting off at the same station I was. Here's where I made my first mistake. I walked straight to my apartment from the train. When I crossed the street over to my apartment, which was really close to the train station, I notice he's behind me. He walks up closer to me and says, "Good morning." I did not respond and I went straight into my building. Then he says, "Oh, you live in my building." But I knew he was lying. I opened the door to my building and it locked behind me automatically. But as soon as the door closed, he started trying to open it. He did not have a key, so obviously he was lying. Then he says, "Can you please open? I forgot my key." So I pulled out my cell phone and showed him that I was dialing 911 and he ran away. The second time I was followed, I was leaving the gym. And this guy followed me from inside the gym outside and stopped me. But guess what? He grabbed my elbow to stop me from walking. Then he said, "I was watching you at the gym and thought you were cute. Can I get your number?" I was so upset that all I could say was, "You saw me inside the gym and thought I was cute, so you followed me outside to ask me for my number? Did you really think that was gonna work?" Let's just say the man was too stunned to speak. So now that I moved to LA again, I needed to find something to make me feel safe. I found Invisaware. It's jewelry and accessories with a button that through ADT, when clicked twice, lets your emergency contacts and 911 if you choose know that you need help and your location. Premium subscription comes with activity tracking and 24/7 access to a live ADT agent. This means that if you're walking by yourself and you video call an ADT agent, they can see everything you see. This is the type of thing that could help save your life. Imagine if you get kidnapped and you have this hair tie on. They would never know. So be careful out there. Love you guys. Bye. Get ready with me for an audition. I have about 8 auditions I need to turn in by 2 days from now. So I'm gonna get ready as quickly as I can. I'm using the Magic Finish from Awesome Beauty, and it's their shade, I don't even know what shade it is. I am also breaking out, so I'm gonna cover that as much as I possibly can. This foundation is amazing. Like, it transforms the skin, it blurs, it's so good. I also have The Nanny on in the background. It's my favorite TV show, honestly, I think of all time. I'm using the Kosas brow pen, and this, again, like in my other get ready, I got ready for a commercial audition. This has to be super quick and natural, just very everyday makeup. This show makes me laugh so much. I have the Awesome Beauty lip balm on. It's really pretty. It's in the color Berry Red. And this is Persona Terracotta Super Blush. Oh my god, I love it! I never usually go for colors like these. I like peachy pink shades, but this is very natural, so very good for like an audition. I'm almost putting on too much. I'm gonna put some up here, down here. I'm also gonna use some powder. This is the pink powder from Laura Mercier's. It's in the color Rose. And for auditions, I try to be as matte as possible. I've had my manager write to me and say like, "Hey, can you refilm that? You were too oily." So that's never gonna happen again. I'm doing mascara because I need my eyes to pop. For auditions, your eyes have to pop, and I'm gonna use Awesome Beauty too. And I'm gonna do 2 coats. Pretty. Have you guys watched The Nanny? It's actually on HBO, but I know you can watch it on YouTube. It is my ultimate comfort show. She's so funny. Comment your favorite TV show. I'm auditioning for 2 different characters for one movie, so I have one outfit underneath this one, so I'm gonna start with this, and then I'll take this off, and I'll put my hair down, so I have 2 completely different looks for this one. But I am ready now. I think this is very natural, nice makeup. I feel really good about it, and this foundation is literally the best foundation ever for on camera, so if you are dying for something like this, you should try it out. Anyway, I gotta get to work. I love you guys. Bye. You are so sweet for saying that.
skincare routine, here we go. So I have a whole new skincare routine that I'm starting tonight, okay? So let's see how this goes. This is the Texture Tonic from Tatcha, and I got this at an event. They were really nice to me because I kept looking at it, and they were like, just take one. And I was like, okay. Neck and chest as well. Next is this resurfacing serum from Kinship. It says to shake, which I didn't. 3 shakes. Okay, that was a tiny bit more. Face and neck. Mario Badescu Caffeine Eye Cream. That looks really nice and thick. I'm feeling something. This is the Glossé Balm. I have actually used this before, but I haven't used it in 6 months. She thick. Look at that. You see how thick that is? Finally, Mario Badescu Lip Balm. Glazed donut look, am I right? You have to be putting lip balm on before you go to bed. After you brush your teeth, though. All right, that's it. I love you guys. Good night.
Story time about how my husband forced me to do the dirty with another man and filmed it. Disclaimer is not my story time, I mean Instagram. I told my husband to get rid of the video, but he doesn't want to. And now he's asking me to do it again with somebody else. Here's a little backstory. My husband and I have been married for 4 years. He's in the military, so he spends a lot of the time away from me. Now, sometimes I think this is a blessing, but it's also a curse. When he's away from me, he's really sweet. He sends me written hand letters saying how much he loves me and how much he misses me. But in the same breath, he'll turn around and accuse me of sleeping with somebody else because I didn't answer the phone while I was at the supermarket. He gets jealous at least once a week, and we always end up having a huge fight over the phone. But when he is home, he's completely hypersexual. He wants to do it all the time. And if I don't want to do it, he gets upset. He once told me that he should just have a girlfriend so that when I don't want to do it with him, he can have somebody else to do it with. And I know that you guys are going to say this is all toxic behavior, but I don't really try to correct his behavior. Because he's in the army, he thinks everything he does is right. And it's just easier for me to go along with it. Is that bad? Part 2 is up. Part 2 of how my husband forced me into doing the dirty with another man while he filmed it. Disclaimer, this is not my story time, I mean Instagram. And now that I'm asking him to delete it, he says he won't. Like I said in part 1, he's in the army. So when he's home, he's super hypersexual. Always wants to have sex, and if I don't want to, he gets really mad. The last time he went away, he started writing to me about his new fantasy. And guess what his fantasy was? He wants to watch me do it with another man. But as soon as he told me, I said absolutely not. First off, I don't want to do it with any other guy. Secondly, I don't want to do it in front of my husband. Remember how I said he gets jealous and we always fight about it? He said that this way I could do it with any guy that I want and he wouldn't get jealous. I kept saying no for a full 2 days. That's when he started calling me every single night, telling me that if I loved him, I should just do it, and that so many other women would do anything to please their husbands. He even said that I should consider myself lucky that he would be willing to let me do it with somebody else. That's when he started sending me pictures of other men in the army. And he basically said, take your pick. But I kept saying no. Then he spent the next 2 weeks trying to convince me to do it. He wore me down so much that eventually I said yes. Part 3 is 2 of how my husband forced me into doing the dirty with another man while he filmed it. Disclaimer, this is not my story time, I mean Instagram. And now that I'm asking him to delete it, he says he won't. Like I said in part 1, he's in the army. So when he's home, he's super hypersexual. Always wants to have sex, and if I don't want to, he gets really mad. The last time he went away, he started writing to me about his new fantasy. And guess what his fantasy was? He wants to watch me do it with another man. But as soon as he told me, I said absolutely not. First off, I don't want to do it with any other guy. Secondly, I don't want to do it in front of my husband. Remember how I said he gets jealous and we always fight about it? He said that this way I could do it with any guy that I want and he wouldn't get jealous. I kept saying no for a full 2 days. That's when he started calling me every single night, telling me that if I loved him, I should just do it, and that so many other women would do anything to please their husbands. He even said that I should consider myself lucky that he would be willing to let me do it with somebody else. That's when he started sending me pictures of other men in the army. And he basically said, take your pick. But I kept saying no. Then he spent the next 2 weeks trying to convince me to do it. He wore me down so much that eventually I said yes. Part 3 is 2 of how my husband forced me into doing the dirty with another man while he filmed it. Disclaimer, this is not my story time, I mean Instagram. And now that I'm asking him to delete it, he says he won't. Like I said in part 1, he's in the army. So when he's home, he's super hypersexual. Always wants to have sex, and if I don't want to, he gets really mad. The last time he went away, he started writing to me about his new fantasy. And guess what his fantasy was? He wants to watch me do it with another man. But as soon as he told me, I said absolutely not. First off, I don't want to do it with any other guy. Secondly, I don't want to do it in front of my husband. Remember how I said he gets jealous and we always fight about it? He said that this way I could do it with any guy that I want and he wouldn't get jealous. I kept saying no for a full 2 days. That's when he started calling me every single night, telling me that if I loved him, I should just do it, and that so many other women would do anything to please their husbands. He even said that I should consider myself lucky that he would be willing to let me do it with somebody else. That's when he started sending me pictures of other men in the army. And he basically said, take your pick. But I kept saying no. Then he spent the next 2 weeks trying to convince me to do it. He wore me down so much that eventually I said yes. Part 3 is Part 3 of how my husband forced me into doing it with another man while he filmed it.
Disclaimer is not my story time, it's not me on Instagram. I finally gave in and said yes to doing it with another guy. I had literal knots in my stomach knowing that I was gonna have to do it. But I justified it because a lot of women do things that they normally wouldn't do for their husbands. So why shouldn't I? My husband finally came home from the army. 2 days later, he scheduled the meeting with the other guy. The guy that I chose from the pictures was actually really handsome. So the doing it part wasn't that hard. It was having my husband in the same room watching that was really hard. Then I noticed that my husband took out a camera. He was full on filming. I told him to turn that off and he said no. So after the guy left, I told my husband to delete the video. But he says he wants to keep it for when he goes away to the army. Everyone has their kinks, but this made me really uncomfortable. I actually feel like I can't trust that he won't show it to anybody. Imagine if he shows it to his army buddies. Now he's asking me to do it with another guy. What the heck should I do?